Etsy changed their policies without telling anyone. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, you can check out my video from the other day that goes through this new policy update. But this has caused so many questions, and thank you everyone who left questions in the comments. It has sent me down quite the rabbit hole of discovery. Why have Etsy done it? Why have they allowed these things in the past? And how will this impact sellers who've legally been selling these items for years? And the type of items I'm talking about here are things like hand-painted altered Converse shoes or blinged up Starbucks mugs. We've all seen them everywhere. So to cover that last point first, what's going to happen to these sellers? Well, I've chatted with Etsy, or at least I've started a conversation with Etsy. The first few people I've spoke to can't actually answer this, so I've been escalated up the food chain, but I still don't have an answer yet about what this means for everybody. I will let you all know as soon as I hear anything, but I totally advise that if you sell this kind of thing, talk to Etsy yourself and check that everything's okay. So why have these kind of items been allowed in the past? And they really have been. There has been a long history of people customizing their clothing. Back in the 90s when I was at uni, everyone had a pair of hand-painted docs. And my little sister actually once came home barefoot and told a story that someone bought her hand-painted shoes off her very feet. Now, whether my mum actually believed this story or not is for family legend. And of course there were people who weren't so artistic who wanted these kind of fun things, so they would pay someone else to do it for them. And there is no doubt that these one-offs created for people are clearly a work of art. If you've bought shoes and painted on them, they were your shoes, you can do that. If you wear them on your feet, I can't see anyone would have a problem with that. And the same, commissioning somebody else to do it for you because you're not so artistic, I don't see it's a big deal either. These are your items that you've purchased and you're paying somebody else to do something else with them. And over the years, this has become a growing popularity, especially with custom sneakers. The market for sneakers is crazy already, with people wanting to buy the latest designs for a ridiculous amount of money. And the market for custom sneakers is equally crazy. I have totally been down this rabbit hole, and now my YouTube home feed is going to be filled forever with unboxings of sneakers that I have no interest in. This has got so big as to things like collaborations between musicians and artists to make custom limited edition ranges of certain sneakers. Now, I haven't been able to find any legal cases, apart from the one I'm going to reference in a little while, of companies complaining about this. In general, it's actually been driving demand for their shoes, and over time people were actually customizing more and more expensive shoes, so they were buying the already limited edition specialist shoes at a huge price, creating more demand for them, and then doing them up and selling them on. So the company's got actually some quite good advertising from this. Now, obviously, there have also been people making replicas of the shoes they see, or customizing shoes to look like a limited edition pattern, colorways that you can get from the company at a higher price. This is counterfeiting. This is not acceptable. But as far as I can tell, creating a limited edition work of art on using the shoe as a canvas could be considered as transformative. Now, I already dug into trademark and copyright infringement things a couple of weeks ago, so I'm kind of up on these terms a little bit, but nobody's an expert because it's a legal definition and has to be defended in a court of law. But I think it's fairly fair to say that it is transformative. You are transforming the shoes from one thing into another work of art. So this kind of thing has been happening for decades, and Etsy has permitted it, and to my knowledge even encouraged it. All was reasonably well until 2019. Mischief is a fairly controversial, I don't know if it's a company or a creator, we'll call it a company, but they created a custom Nike, or Nike. How do you say it in your country? Nike or Nike? It was based on the Air Max 97 shoe. I'm having to read this because I have no idea what these are. And it was called the Jesus shoe. And apparently, I totally missed this trend, but apparently it was the most searched, the most Googled Googled sneaker of 2019. There was some hate and complaints. Obviously, this kind of thing is a bit controversial. The shoe was suggesting you could walk on water like Jesus, with the air cavity in the sole filled with supposed holy water, a crucifix on the laces, and a custom insert and a Bible passage printed on the outside of the shoe. Which, I'm going to have to say, I don't see a whole lot of transformation in these shoes. It looks like the original shoe with some things added on, but that's not my decision to make. Now, looking into it, Mischief, or MSCHF, I assume it's pronounced mischief, have been controversial in the past, but they've managed to avoid getting into too much trouble by stating this was covered under the first sale doctrine. This limits the rights of the IP owner to control the resale of its products. So when you've sold it on to someone else, the item belongs to that person to do with as they want. Apparently. We'll see how that works out. Some people did mistake these shoes as a collab with Nike. This is a warning of what was about to come. So, 2020, they stepped up the controversy with the Satan shoes. These were a limited edition run of 666 pairs of shoes. They supposedly had a drop of human blood in the sole. Whose blood? How on earth did they harvest 666 drops of blood from a person? Anyway, it was diluted up in red-coloured liquid in the sole. So, instead of the holy water in the sole, these had blood water in the sole. The Jesus shoes were white, the Satan shoes were black. But apart from that, the customizations were similar, pentagram type thing on the laces and a custom insole. Again, is that really much customization? But this time there were lots of complaints. Again, people thinking this was a Nike collaboration, that Nike were responsible for this. And now people were talking of boycotting the company because they were so outraged by these shoes. So Nike took a stand. They took Mischief to court to get them to stop distributing the shoes. Even though at the time, Mischief had already actually sold out 665 of the shoes and already shipped them. So Mischief's defense was this was parody. Not that it was transformative, but it was a parody of Nike. And Nike's offense was that it was hurting their brand. And I can't disagree with them there. If people are boycotting the brand because of something you've done, then what's been done is hurting the brand. And honestly, there's no parody that I can see of making Nike shoes devil shoes. Nike isn't associated with religion like that, so I don't see how that can be argued as a parody. And it seemed like a judge agreed with me, issuing a temporary restraining order on the distribution of the shoes. So, does this mean the end of custom shoes? This case has now seen a court of law, so this is how you can decide fair use on things compared to what other cases have happened in the past. Well, actually, it's still not that cut and dry. Mischief have settled out of court, so the case is dropped as far as I can see just now. So it's not been decided legally. So although the judge offered a temporary distribution restraining order on shoes, but although the judge offered that, they hadn't gone all the way to deciding if this was illegal or not yet. Although it did look like the judge was going to side for Nike here. And also the thing here is the issue is brand confusion and hurting the brand. We don't know what other brands think about this, or even if Nike cares about other modifications. If it's not putting people up in arms and boycotting them, is it not doing the company good? So I would say, and don't take legal advice from a person on the internet, but I would say here that customizations that are clearly not connected to the brand, that are really transformative or a parody, are not going to fall into the same trap as the Mischief Satan shoes, but we just don't know. Which explains to me that Etsy likely freaked out. It's covering its back with a vague policy that doesn't say quite whether you can or cannot sell these things. But some sellers have contacted me to let me know that Etsy have deactivated their listings. It looked like they deactivated them at the start of this court case. So Etsy's legal team have been in a scramble trying to figure out where they stand with this. So it seems to me that they're cracking down on items with the logo of the brand, anything that might cause that kind of brand confusion. So if your item still has the logo and you're still marketing it under Nike, Chanel, Gucci, then Etsy might freak out and take them down just now. They're actually even saying in their messages that although it might be legal in your country to sell the things that you're selling, it's not acceptable on Etsy. So Etsy is preempting the law. It's saying, we really don't know, so we're just going to take everything down so that we don't get into trouble. And it's Etsy's platform, so they can decide what they want sold on there, even if it isn't a legal matter. I'm still trying to get clarification over what you can sell, what's okay, what's not okay. I will let you know as soon as I hear. But for now, I would contact Etsy, and if you're in any doubt, unless it's the entirety of your shop and this is the only way you're making money, but if these grey area items are just part of your shop, at the minute in time I would consider deactivating them till we hear from Etsy, because the last thing you want is to get your shop shut down with a change that you didn't even know was happening.